Welcome to Not the Top 20 podcast, recapping a really lively weekend in the Sky Bet Championship. We're sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. And we'll start with a Steel City derby that saw one Sheffield side relegate the other. Sheffield United 2, Sheffield Wednesday 1. The nightmare scenario for a set of fans in Sheffield Wednesday that have been living a nightmare for some time now. It couldn't have started any worse, with Patrick Bamford scoring, and a really composed finish it was too. And then Harrison Burrows, a really nice sort of triangle down the left-hand side, which saw Peck play a ball through for Burrows, who smashed it in the near post. All that happened pretty early on, Georgian. It felt at that time, as it often does in these scenarios, that it could get a little bit ridiculous, that Blades could keep racking up the score. But they didn't. They certainly didn't.
No, they didn't. I mean, it was in part helped by Calvin Phillips being sent off for a stupid, bad foul. It's a foul where he quite clearly gets to the ball before Ingleson. He wins the ball first. We aren't able to categorically say what was meant, but I think there was certainly a bit left on Ingleson in the way that he...
And the crucial thing is, it doesn't matter what was meant or what wasn't meant in terms of the laws of the game.
Exactly.
I love to bring out the serious foul play definition, but I think it's always worth doing so because people love to ignore what the laws actually are and love to put their own meaning into things. Any player who lunges at an opponent in challenging for the ball from the front, from the side or from behind using one or both legs with excessive force or endangers the safety of an opponent is guilty of serious foul play.
There you go.
Studs on knee didn't look great.
There was, and Phillips responded to the red card by shouting over and over again to whoever would listen, how is that a red? How is that a red? And I would kind of think that given Calvin Phillips' disciplinary record, if he doesn't know that's a red, then he should probably actually go and read those rules and then he'll work out what actually is a yellow card and a red card, and maybe he'll get fewer bookings in the future.
And Wednesday had just scored, hadn't they? And there was genuinely like 10 minutes of excitement.
Yeah. So Wednesday scored a couple of minutes after the red card. McNeil with a really nice finish into the bottom corner. And it was a good finish, and I really liked the way that he kind of celebrated it, even though this was obviously a very dark day in the history of Sheffield Wednesday and what came to pass. You know, it's going to be looked back on with absolutely zero fondness. At least they had that moment. At least they had a moment where they had a young player who is theirs scoring a goal of real quality, of him kind of grabbing the badge and trying to show a little bit of fight and a bit of passion.
Effing come on, effing come on, effing come on, effing come on.
You'd love to see it.
Verbatim.
And I'm sure there are lots of people in the crowd saying exactly that thing.
Yeah. I was saying it.
That's actually I would say that, having heard you do it then, I would say that is your go-to celebratory shout.
100%.
Yeah. Whereas I think I just go like, wah!
Yeah, I'm an effing come on guy.
And then a massive get in at the end of a wah. Yeah. Anyway, they weren't able to get back into the game, and then Otegbayo was sent off for a second yellow card, putting down Tyrese Campbell as they looked to break with the 10 men, and then Blades had a couple of opportunities late in the game to put a bit of daylight between them and Wednesday, which they failed to do. Probably some frustration. Seni Dieng, the latest emergency goalkeeper to become Wednesday's goalkeeper, beaten at his near post for both goals. Both of them, you said that Bamford was composed. It was composed, but you could almost see his thought process of being like, right, I need to score this now. He looked up and he was like, well, I can just plant it into that huge gap at the near post. Yeah. To get beaten at Bramall Lane, to get relegated at Bramall Lane, it's just, given that this relegation has been inevitable since July, the only way that they could have actually been relegated and that be a moment in itself was probably for this to happen and to be relegated on this day. It's hopefully going to be the nadir for them. Hopefully going to be in the future something they can look forward to. I was kind of annoyed. I saw a clip on social media over the weekend of Tim Sherwood being asked about this on Sky Sports News, and him basically saying like, yeah, it's fine, they're going to bounce back and they'll be in the Premier League again soon. It's like, no. This isn't over yet. Like, we are not in a position yet where we can just shrug our shoulders and say, look, the worst has happened. Like, Wednesday are in the midst of a crisis. Yes, there's a preferred bidder, but there is no news as to when that's going to go through.
It's been 2 months, hasn't it?
Yeah. And obviously we hope that it does go through, but even when that happens, there's no guarantees here. Like, the amount of money it's going to take to rebuild the infrastructure needed at Wednesday in order to make them into a functioning football club again, the money that needs spending on the ground, the money that needs spending on the training ground, like, this is not a quick fix where Chansiri goes, someone else comes in and suddenly they're Wednesday again. So I just really hope that. And it was interesting, even Chris Wilder, who you look at the Derby Day win last season and him singing Sausage Roll on a table in a pub in Sheffield United with Joe Root, like, his demeanour was very different.
Well,
After
not a
the
lot of
game
rhymes
Saturday.
with Pedersen, to be fair.
No, I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
But he this time around, he's someone who, as a Sheffield United fan, clearly hates Sheffield Wednesday, right? Like with every fibre of his being, like a lot of United fans do. Yeah, on this occasion, he spoke about the staff and the players and the fans and how sad it is that this is happening. And credit to him for doing so. Even though I'm sure Wednesday fans couldn't care less what he says in that respect, but it just shows like the critical nature of the situation. So I really hope that some good news comes soon, because we're seeing the word bankruptcy being used a fair bit and talking about what happens here if this deal doesn't go through.
Yeah, well, something, the administrators can't run the club forever, can they? So a deal does need to go through. It's all feeling pretty worrying at the moment. Just from a Sheffield United point of view, this is obviously a massive day for them. I saw quite a lot of discussion, if you like, from not Sheffield United or Sheffield Wednesday fans. A lot of it on NTT20 Squad, and all of it very respectful, and it wasn't tedious mudslinging on Twitter. It's, as it always is on there, it's kind of thoughtful, curious, respectful, even when opinionated discussion. But I do think in instances like this, anyone trying to tell Sheffield United fans how they should or shouldn't feel, as if to say, well, they're already down and they're obviously in bad shape, so you shouldn't celebrate this and go, big guns on it. I think when it comes to this stuff, just feel what you feel and don't worry too much about it. And football rivalries don't need to make sense to everyone, and they don't all follow the same formula. So, I'm mostly concerned about Sheffield Wednesday, but I also wouldn't be criticising any Blades fans for enjoying yesterday.
And what I would say as well, and this doesn't really make any sense for a team that have only won one game this season, and that was against Portsmouth in a game where they won 2-0, but they were battered. It's just one of those games where they
picked them on the betting show that week, didn't I? It was the only leg of the Eggman that didn't. I picked Portsmouth on the betting show.
And that was
the
only
leg of the Acca that lost. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
For a team that won one game this season, I've been pretty impressed with their fight and the way that despite having a massive shortfall in terms of actual quality. I sent you and the other guys from NTT20.com a piece this morning all about. There was some study in Belgium to work out which metrics are actually predictive of results. And XG isn't one of them. Shots on target in the box is one of them. And one of the highest ones, I think the second most predictive, was the value of a bench, right? Okay. Basically showing that squad depth is so important when it comes to success. And this Wednesday have had no depth all season. And as the season has gone on, they've continually had players just picked off them who provide that depth. So for them to, even being 2-0 down here and only losing the game 2-1, they've given teams scares. They're rarely beaten, 5, 6, 7, which you'd expect from a team that's only won once a season. So even though I expect there are some neutrals here and definitely some Sheffield United fans who are thinking a bit weird to kind of credit a team who are going to have the lowest points tally, ignoring a relegation that we've seen in the EFL. But, I think there is enough belief and spirit within the playing staff and with Pedersen himself that hopefully if things get sorted out off the field, then they can bounce back quickly.
West Brom 0, Coventry 2. Coventry, you have to say, basically win the weekend in the Championship, having won the week as well. We weren't able to cover Coventry's win against Boro on the Monday pod. We did so in our midweek podcast for paid subscribers of NTT20.com. It was a very, very impressive performance and win from a Coventry side that had a lot of doubters, I think it's fair to say. And they backed it up by beating West Brom 2-0 up in the first half. The first goal is a lovely ball over the top from Van Evik for Efren Mason-Clark to finish. And the second was a Jack Rodoni rocket. Now, I want to mention Onyeka, the central midfielder, because I think his impact both against Boro and here was incredibly notable. And it made me laugh a bit because I feel like if most fans ran their club's recruitment teams, generally they'd overpay, certainly in January, and mostly for strikers most of the time.
There'd be so many strikers.
There'd be a lot of strikers. But Coventry fans in January, right, were going, can we have a ball-winning central midfielder, please? We think that would fix some of our issues. And the club went, how about Romain Essa? And they went, okay, but how about a ball-winning central midfielder? Because I think that would fix a lot of our issues. And the club went, what about Yang? And they went, okay, nice backup winger. How about a ball-winning central midfielder? Because we think that might solve quite a lot of issues. And then the club buy Onyeka. And he's class. And he solved a lot of their issues. And Essa and Yang are basically backup wingers at this point. So well done. The fans had the vision. The club got it over the line. And he's had a huge, huge impact in these 2 games, giving them a bit more meat in the centre of the park. Radoni's goal was brilliant, and I think he's coming into form basically for the first time this season, disrupted by injury, and then really has taken a while for him to warm up and get back to a similar level to last season. But it's 4 assists and a goal in his last 6 starts. For West Brom, the positive was a 10-minute spell at the start of the second half where they ran around a bit more and got into Coventry's final third, or the attacking final third a little bit more, but didn't muster a huge amount of actual chances, didn't look likely to take them if they did. They've scored 1 league goal in their last 6 games, and it was Nat Phillips's equaliser against Derby from a corner. The relegation anxiety is pretty high, and you can see why. The manager has had absolutely no impact. In fact, the performances have got tangibly worse since he took over from Ryan Mason, and the performances of the individual players are obviously terrible. The way that the squad was built now looks pretty terrible, and even at the start of the season we looked at particularly the profile of the fullbacks and the style of play that we felt Mason wanted to play, and we wondered how you could possibly play a fairly technical 4-2-3-1 with fullbacks that just have absolutely nothing to offer in the opposition's half. The issues have gone a lot further than that, but even I think at the start of the season there were some concerns or concerns that you could have had about the way that the squad looked. It couldn't be going much worse for them at the moment. Lots of games still to play though. No one is relegated yet, even if sometimes it might feel like that. Oxford United. Coventry, I'm just saying, like you've probably got fans who are going like, well, we're down.
Yeah.
Maybe not after the draw against Boro.
You ignore them.
Coventry, 3 points clear of second now and 9 points clear of third. What was everyone worried about with Cov? Quick one on Oxford 0, Boro 0, because that's part of the reason why Coventry won the weekend is that the team in second and third and fourth all dropped points.
Yeah, obviously a big point for Oxford, a frustrating day for Boro. Matt Bloomfield said after the game that he was kind of left feeling proud but also frustrated that maybe there were chances for Oxford to win it, certainly chances for Boro to win it as well. In the first half, Oxford hit the woodwork twice. Dan Mills with a long shot from with his left foot from 25 yards that cannoned back off the crossbar, and then Pert Harris got there just ahead of Bryn, kind of swiveled and hooked it from point blank range against the posts. Second half, Boro made all the running, but Cumming didn't have to make any kind of really good saves. So not a great week for Boro, and just for Oxford now, it's now or never. Like a trip to a Stoke team woefully out of form on Wednesday night, hosting West Brom this coming weekend, and then Preston away on Friday night next week, live on Sky. Like it just feels like you've got to find a way now to close that gap. And when you consider that the gap now to Blackburn is, I think, 9 points, because Blackburn were just ahead of Oxford, it just shows how quickly, if you can just put 2 good performances together, win 2 games of football, when the benchmarks you've got to try and get from like 29 points to 40 points as fast as you can, like you can get halfway there with 2 wins. So it's looking unlikely, obviously, and the more teams that pull away from the bottom 3 makes it more difficult. But as I said on the dub, the Oxford pod I do, like ignore what everyone else is doing and just remember that if Oxford can win 3 of our next 5 games, then regardless of anything else, it's going to look a lot better down there.
Yeah, not a great response from Boro to that defeat to Coventry, but no harm done. In fact, they extended their lead over second, third and fourth, over third, fourth and fifth, in fact, partly because Wrexham 5, Ipswich 3 was the game of the weekend, George. 8 goals, 9 yellow cards, 10 out of 10 football match.
Yeah, a ridiculous game of football. And, Wrexham have these games, and they have done since they've been back in the EFL, these games at the Stock Ras where they just go mad for goals. I can think of like so many occasions where Wrexham have scored 5 at home, and this was another, but they've done it against the most expensively assembled team in the league, the pre-season title favourites, and a team that come into this game had looked in much better form. It was a good weekend for, well, bad for keepers, but a good weekend for near post finishes.
Yeah.
Loads of them. But the best of the lot across the EFL had to be Kiefer Moores.
Big Kiefer. He's been working on his left foot shooting, because I can picture a couple of goals from that, almost that exact spot, where one he went hard and low into the far corner, this one high into the near post.
It was like with
his weaker foot.
It's just again a very unique finish where he had loads of time. Good work from Windass to play him down that left channel, and it's a proper like pick your spot finish where even though he's wide on the left hand side, he kind of hits this like curling shot starting outside the post. into the top left-hand corner, a brilliant hit. Mehmeti made it 1-1 before Windass made it 2-1 to Wrexham. Azon scored a really nice finish. A brilliant move, that one. Really good little link play from Taylor around the corner after Matasiwa fizzed it into Taylor's feet. And then a classy finish into the bottom right. So half-time 2-2. In a game where, like, I'd say both teams are pretty clinical rather than there being loads of opportunities, but it descended into absolute chaos. I did not expect. I was at a stag do on Saturday.
Nice.
And big trumpet time. I may or may not have taken a few financial positions with goals in this game. So it was a game where I had alerts on my phone.
I reckon, on balance, you may have done.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was sitting. Stag do start early, and this was quite a raucous one. But I had alerts on my phone, and when I saw that Cedric Kipre made it 3-2, shortly after, I thought, nice little goal from range. Sorry, goal from close range, like a set piece goal.
Range.
Yes, what a finish!
What a strike!
Ball falls to him on the edge of the area. Probably a player you don't really want to be there. Just bends it beautifully into the kind of middle right hand corner. Players that was having a lot of joy down the left-hand side was George Thomason, who was kind of getting inside in between Furlong and O'Shea. O'Shea had like a bit of a shocker all game, really. And he found himself on that far side, and he shot it near post, and it went in, beating Walton again at that area. Pick it 3-3, Doyle then from a set piece, and then Brody against his old team, finishing it off and making it a famous 5-3 win for Wrexham, 3-2 down, winning it 5-3. They are in 6th position. There is a 2-point gap between them and Birmingham. They are now, only 3 points behind Hull and only 3 points behind Ipswich. Although those two teams have at least one game in hand on them. Hull have one, Ipswich have two. But we've got to look at this now as being a Wrexham team who are operating as one of the best teams in the whole division, who are currently occupying a top 6 berth. If they do get in the playoffs. Like, let's say the season finished now and you had Coventry and Boro going up, which is looking the most likely, and you had a playoff quartet of Millwall, Ipswich, Hull and Wrexham. Well, Wrexham have just beaten the team that would be favourites for that playoff race 5-3 and did
beat them in the cup the other day as well. Beat them in the cup. Better side in both.
Back.
Yep.
Both at home. So, I, having been massively sceptical about their chances to do this pre-season, and basically told any of my casual friends who would ask me, are Wrexham getting in the Premier League? I'd be like, no. Obviously not. Like, it's just not. It's not how it works. They're making me and other people who thought this would be a step too far, at least this season, look foolish. And like, massive credit to Phil Parkinson for just continuing to find ways. Like, his job is very easy in so many ways because he's given the tools to compete very quickly. Where if you look at John Mousinho, or you look at Des Buckingham, or you look at Nathan Jones, Jones may be a bit of a different case. They did spend quite well, but like, they're not immediately given the kind of resource as he has been in terms
Congratulations on your promotion. Thank you for that. We'd like to give you a whole new team of better players. We've got to January. We think you could do with maybe 5 new players. But there's a lovely job.
But I would say in Parkinson's, like, not defense, because we're not defend him because he just gets praised, but like, that also can't be that easy. Like, you're still having to manage like a ridiculously transient team, whilst also trying to, like, take Keeler Dunn for an example, who just can't really get on the pitch. Like, how's he managing that situation where you got a guy who's used to playing basically every minute of every game, who here was yet again an unused substitute? You have to, like Sam Smith, who basically whenever he plays, he seems to score and play incredibly well. He was an unused substitute. Like, there are
talk about bench value.
Yeah.
Wrexham's is
insane.
Incredible.
Yeah.
There's basically no drop off between starters and bench players, and they play with such intensity that I think that just makes has a massive impact.
Yeah, I agree.
Big game, really big game. I must admit, laugh, with apologies to Myth ITFC on Twitter at his tweet, which was, do you know what was great? When the whole away end clapped Broadhead on, to which the shithouse didn't even acknowledge, and then went ballistic when he scored. Brilliant, that. Well done, Nathan Broadhead. No need for muteds. No need for muted celebs in a 5-3. Hull 1, QPR 3. Another defeat for a team towards the top end of the table. Charlie Hughes was dropped and or rotated and or rested for this one. Paddy McNair came in for him, scored an own goal. Harvey Vale corner hit him at the back post and went in to put QPR ahead. Hull did equalise through Joe Gelhard from close range after good play from Yu Hirakawa. But Daniel Benny was the key man, really, because he absolutely spanked home a powerful shot from about 25 yards out for his first big moment in a QPR shirt to put them 2-1 up. Now, I went to the Coventry QPR game at Loftus Road the other day. Benny came on and played on the right side of the attack. He is not a Karamoko Dembele, close quarters, tight spaces, uber technical type player. He actually tried so hard in that game that he kept like slightly fudging his final ball, his final pass, his final cross, his final shot. And you could get that sense from the fans that they were really enjoying the work rate and the intent, but were getting a bit frustrated at some of the execution. So I was very pleased to see that he's had his big execution moment, if you like, because I think, having that base level of work rate, physicality, being able to stretch your legs and handle the physicality of the Championship, he looks pretty well set for that, the young Aussie, and dropped a great F-bomb in his post-match interview as well. And then the third goal was King Kone. Kieran Dowell must have had one of the worst sub-appearances of the season here. He gave the ball away to Kone, who tried to dink it over the keeper, who just stood up and caught it, 1v1. And then he did it again, played him through, and Kone scored the second one. So Dowell coming on to help QPR get back level, and instead basically assisted QPR's goal that kind of iced the cake. So from a whole point of view, obviously they've hit the skids a little bit. They've only had 3 games in February. They've all been home games. And they were second best in a 0-0 draw at home to Watford. They lost 3-2 to Bristol City, and now they've lost 3-1 to QPR, and they've got Derby at home in midweek. If they'd won just one of those games, they'd be third in the Championship. Instead, now the teams in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th are not just looking at 6th spot, but now they're looking at Hull and they're smelling blood a little bit. For QPR, 3-0 draws away from home before this one, and now an away win. They're such an unpredictable team, QPR, which makes me love them, to be honest. But they're very much in the seeded batch. They are therefore still in with a shout if they have a good end to the season. But next 4, Saints away, Sheffield United at home, Boro at home, Birmingham away. I think most likely, George,
12 points.
Less than 12 points. I think that QPR might be the first team on the beach this season.
Ooh. Beaches. Sound nice.
Yes.
Ali, we used to ban each other from taking holidays during the football season just because it was too difficult to keep up to date with the leagues. But that's all changed now with NordVPN.
Big time. On the beach, on the mountain, on somewhere else.
On the mountain.
Doesn't matter where you are, watching sports while you're abroad is no longer an issue. And that is why in Spain, near the beach, but closer to the golf course, actually, around the turn of the new year, I had such a seamless time because I didn't miss a single kick of football. I watched live games, highlights, all of it with NordVPN. You can switch your location from anywhere in the world in order to access the content you pay for and enjoy at home. I use NordVPN to book flights to avoid price discrimination. It's great for cybersecurity as well. You can shield your online activities from hackers, makes public Wi-Fi safer to use. It's a great and an important addition to modern life.
And we've got an exclusive discount for NTT20 listeners, a discounted price and 4 extra months free by heading to nordvpn.com/NTT20. That's nordvpn.com/NTT20.
More big games, more points being dropped by those near the top. Millwall 1, Portsmouth 3.
Yeah, what a couple of weeks for Portsmouth, or certainly their last couple of games. They put in a much improved display when being beaten 1-0 by Sheffield United. They then went to Charlton and got their second away win of the whole season, 3-1, and then followed up with another away win in the capital, beating Millwall 3-1 on Saturday. So back-to-back away wins for a team that don't win often away from home. And both of them by a 3-1 scoreline. Now, there's lots to get into here as to how this happened, but this was so unlikely that Portsmouth to win this game by 2 clear goals or more was 9-1 with Sky Bet, and that makes Portsmouth's this week's Sky Bet surprise. Yeah, it was, John Mousinho's Pompey at their best are a high-octane, high-energy team who attack effectively and quickly in transition, and that's exactly what they did here. There wasn't much between the two sides in what was a relatively drab first half display where Pompey still had the better chances and won the shot count 8-4. But in the second half is when things really kicked on for them, and it all came from a good bit of centre-forward play by Colby Bishop, who's not really amongst the goals at the moment, but can still offer a great deal in terms of leading the line. And it was his little flick on that was misjudged by the Millwall defender. And Caballero, the Paraguayan winger on loan from Santos, showed a real turn of pace to get him down that right-hand side. His first shot was saved, but he managed to convert the second. John Swift, then, who's been probably hasn't had the impact that Pompey fans would have hoped when he signed for them. Scored the second. Casper Denore scored a really nice finish to make it 2-1, but straight away Pompey answered with Marlon Pack finishing to make it 3-1. Now, if you're looking at the key players within this game, I'd argue there might be a bit of a theme here where Caballero, the man already mentioned, who was brilliant down the right-hand side all game, started the season playing on the opposite wing to Neymar, this season playing on the opposite wing to Millie Ali. And I'd say there's not much between the two at the moment because Milanic Ali was superb. He was brought in from Luton on loan with a reported option in January, and with Josh Murphy out, who's such an important player for Portsmouth, his performances down that left side have been so crucial to Portsmouth's better run of form. He's a direct wide player, someone who's happy, like Murphy is, to go down all the way to the byline and get crosses in. Also very keen to cut inside on his right foot and shoot. And again here, Tristan Kramer, who's been one of the best defenders, I would say, in the EFL this season, certainly one of Millwall's best players and a reason why they are where they are, had a torrid time against Ali where consistently he had the beating of him. Ebu Adams alongside Marlon Pack, no surprise at all that Pack is having a better run of games with Adams alongside him. Adams provides those legs in midfield, covers distance so well, good on the ball, and has made himself immediately really popular with Pompey fans. So Ali, Caballero, Adams, 3 players there who were all brought in January, all having an immediate impact to this Pompey side. And we know that it's hard. Fans fixate on January as being an important time to replenish the squad and bring in quality, but generally the hit rate for these signings, because of the nature of the window and because teams are very keen not to lose players of value to them, means that January signings often don't play too much of a part. But in this case, and we're seeing with Portsmouth, straight away they brought in players who've improved them. It's made even more impressive when you look at the injury list, where we have the aforementioned Josh Murphy, who on his day is one of the best players in the Championship, and anyone who told me differently hasn't seen him play enough in the last 18 months. Connor Chaplin, who was one of the best players of the Championship 2 seasons ago, yes, it hasn't necessarily worked for him, but in terms of the player that he's meant to be for Pompey and the role he plays in the squad is a huge miss. Connor Shaughnessy, he's been an incredibly important player for Portsmouth over the last few years. Andre Dazelle, Bianchini, Matthews, Knight, Anderson, Kozanovsky, Waddington. All of these players will be playing consistent minutes for Portsmouth if they were fit. And all of them are currently facing time on the sidelines as well. It's amazing that this string of performances from a senior side has come at a point where they have this many injuries. And at a time where, prior to the win against Charlton, their position in the league table, especially had they been beaten by Charlton, who sat just above them, was looking pretty perilous. I think Mousinho deserves immense credit, and for going to Millwall, a team who've been so impressive this season under Alex Neil, have genuine aspirations of being a Premier League team next season, for them to get this result and put in this kind of performance, I'd be amazed if Portsmouth are going to be in trouble come the end of the season, given the way they're playing right now.
Caballero's a bit of fun, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's one of the fastest I've ever seen a footballer run, I think.
It was fast.
And he took the second chance very well as well.
Yeah.
On the bounce, near post, top corner, roofed it. Best away win for Portsmouth since getting back to the Championship. Last season, they didn't beat a single top half team away from home. Now, they might have won a game against a team early on in the season who was technically third at the time, whatever. The final league table from last season, they didn't beat a single top half team away from home. And they hadn't this season until beating Millwall, who are not an easy team to go and beat at the Den. So huge for Pompey. Back-to-back wins for them in the week. Norwich 1, Birmingham 2. It's Birmingham flying up the table at the moment. And they were 2-0 up in the first half here. Now, definite credit to Birmingham, Chris Davies, in possession coaches, whoever they may be, for setting up Birmingham's approach here, because they did the same thing twice and scored 2 goals from it. On the flip side, Norwich's out of possession shape, all wrong. And you can see it. There's a certain time you can press pause during the build-up for Birmingham's first goal, where you can just see that Norwich have got it all wrong. The front four are pressing high, but they found themselves basically locked onto the wrong players and or just a little bit slow to the press. Cresceni then jumps to get to Bright Osei Samuel, the right back, who receives the ball on the touchline, but he's a bit too slow as well. There's just so much space for Osei Samuel to play it down the line, and Vicente scores a really nice take from one of Birmingham's January signings, who, like those Portsmouth players you just mentioned, a lot of them have come in and made a big impact straight away from Solis in midfield. Vicente here, Priske, who gets the assist for the second goal, and of course Ibi Osman as well off the left has done really well, and the left back Wagner. So they're another team whose January signings really do seem to have given them a big boost. The second goal was exactly the same again. I'll say Samuel received the ball in space because the press had gone wrong, and he played it through to Priske to square it for Marvin Duksh. 2-0 Birmingham. Now in the second half, Norwich came on fairly strong, as you'd expect. They've been very good in the last few weeks, and they showed some good attacking play. Paris Magoma came off the bench and looked very, very silky. He's been very impressive in his first couple of performances for Norwich, which is really exciting and pleasing because he's just such a good player to watch. Mo Toure was lively once again, hit the post, a couple of other chances, but this time didn't score as he did so well in his first couple of appearances. So great performance and away win from Birmingham. You know, they are taking bigger and bigger scalps with these away wins over the last couple of weeks. They've certainly ended their hoodoo on their travels, and they look a very good bet to be a massive part of the playoff conversation right until the end of the season. And frankly, if their form continues, I would expect them to be in the playoff places within a couple of weeks. And yeah, they're looking very, very strong. So good win for them. George, a couple of others in the mix. Watford beat Derby 2-0. Derby, the latest side to get to 6th and then have a nosebleed.
Yeah, it was a really good performance from Watford, where they started really brightly and on the front foot, and they kind of continued that going throughout the game. And it was a very un-Derby performance, I would say, from John Eustace's side, where the goal, certainly the goal that opened the scoreline, the scoring with Marma, with some good work down the left-hand side crossing, and Derby failing to clear a couple of times before Kjermgaard managed to steer it home after 5 minutes. Like, their fast start was rewarded. But even after that, despite going ahead, often game state can mean that when a team is ahead early on, it can come under severe pressure for the rest of the game. But it wasn't really the case. Derby didn't get overly close to them. They had more possession than they probably would have liked, but weren't really able to fashion anything particularly, resembling a decent chance. Chapatadze came on for Mama halfway through the first half, frustrating for Watford fans that he seems to have picked up an injury just when he's kind of starting to look really good. Corduroy Bar also came off with an injury with 20 or so minutes to go, so Bar and Mama being assessed as per Ed Still's post-match interview. And then a really nice goal to finish it with just two very good footballers in Louza and Chapatadze deciding to play Iniesta and Xavi together and just play like 2-yard passes to each other before one of them setting off Bowler down the left, who crossed for Dumbia to score the second goal. So for Ed Still, I think it's been, given the scrutiny around his appointment, I think for him to take on a team banging form in Derby at home and beat them with relative ease should mean that those sneering at his appointment will have to move on pretty quickly, because there's been some real promise in the first two games.
And Swansea, they beat Bristol City by 1-0, which means it's 22 points from their last 8 home games, 5 wins to 0 in that time.
And how many goals for Zan Vipotnik?
Loads and loads and loads, 3 more than anyone else in the league, and 13 more than any other Swansea player in the league this season.
Yeah,
their second highest scorer is on 3.
Yeah, a nice finish from close range. He's just a very good finisher, and he took his chance well. And the difference probably being that Bristol City's biggest threat on the day, who did a lot very, very well in Sinclair Armstrong, isn't a great finisher. And he had a couple of opportunities which he wasn't able to score from, one of which he probably should have squared it, but took it on himself with Bergzog playing inside. Bristol City weren't necessarily bad here. There wasn't loads between the two teams, but the best chance fell Swansea's way, and they were able to take it. There are times where you watch Armstrong where you just think, this guy, if he could put it all together, would be so good. He did one dribble through the middle of the pitch where his close control is good. He's a really good player, good footballer, but for some reason it never really seems to all come together for 90 minutes. But interesting that he led the line here and played 80, because it suggests he might get a bit of a run, albeit the player that came closest late on for Bristol City was Emil Rees with what I'm sure was a cross to hit the outside of the post and out of play. So. Yeah, a big win for Swansea. Bristol City will be frustrated that they weren't able to get anything from the game. It's 1 win from their last 4 now, including that 5-0 defeat against Derby. It feels like their playoff push is starting to dwindle somewhat.
Blackburn Rovers beat Preston by 1-0 on Friday night, and the result is massive. On top of the win at QPR before that, it means that Michael O'Neill has started with back-to-back wins. And boy, were Blackburn thirsty for some wins. They are now 5 points above the relegation zone that they were in just a couple of weeks ago. They've won 3 of their last 4. Really massive stuff. Now, look, it wasn't a great game, okay? But as a positive guy, I'm going to list my positives from this because I watched it. I was really excited to sit down on the sofa, house to myself, Friday night, and watch some Championship football. And it wasn't a great game for the spectacle. But 4 good things. 1, that feeling of reward that you get even as a neutral when there's a 95th minute winner in a game that you've sat through that you thought was about to finish 0-0. 2, Aaron Cashin's cross that set up Ohashi's header. Surely the highest apex that any assist has had this season from a cross. He kicked it 50 metres up in the air.
Yeah.
And then everyone got so bamboozled, maybe by the floodlights, apart from Ohashi, that he just nodded it in. It was such a weird goal.
It was a really weird goal. I couldn't really work out what was happening. And just on the Cashin thing, I really rate him anyway. But this weird way that he seems to have been like held up as this example of Brighton having like lost their recruitment edge really annoys me.
Not for you.
And I'd really like him to prove to everyone how good he is because it's stupid.
Yeah. Third positive, Michael O'Neill. He's just a lovely man, isn't he? He's got a lovely, calm, level-headed, sort of fair demeanour. There aren't many current managers like Michael O'Neill, I don't think, but he constantly reminds me that he is probably the manager I'd most want to be my uncle. So that was a big positive. And the last thing was Daniel Mann. I mean, he's a positive of every game that I watch that on which he commentates. But in particular, Daniel Mann's absolute relish at pronouncing the name Morishta. He absolutely loved it.
Less is more.
He nailed it. And as a fellow pronunciation man myself, Daniel Mann continues to set very high standards. So big win for Rovers. Preston's form pretty bleak. Indeed. Stoke 2, Leicester 2. Gary Rowett's first game in charge of Leicester. Now, Stoke, the better side in the first half, went ahead, Wilmot scoring. They had a number of set-piece chances. At half-time, whatever Rowett did worked because second half Leicester were much better. They started really well and got some fortune, which they won't have had that much of recently when Divine Mukasa scored a cross. Mukasa S. Sukasa, as they say. He then set up Winks for a goal that put Leicester ahead, and we thought maybe they'd start the Rowett era with a win, but they didn't. 2-2, Wilmot again, back post from a Sorba Thomas cross with some poor back post defending. So I kind of think, and maybe Stoke or Leicester fans will tell me I'm wrong, that it's a bit underwhelming for both sides in a way. For Leicester, they don't win again. They have a punch in the gut late on again. It's a group of players that have not done very well seeing out results recently. Some positives for Rowett in his first game, certainly the way they played at the start of the second half, but I'd have preferred they started the game well, and that would have suggested he had a really good game plan, whereas actually Stoke with the better side in the first half. So definitely need to see more. And as for Stoke, I mean, just finding it so difficult at the moment to win games. Robin switched to 3 at the back here. I guess classic case of a manager just trying something new to try and shake out something better. Played Sorba Thomas right wing back. Didn't make that much of a difference, I wouldn't suggest. And it means that Manhoef and Raksaki, there's not really any place for them. Both of them started the game on the bench. Also, Saints 1, Charlton 1 to finish off what was, as I've realised as we've been podding, a great weekend in the Championship. Strong start from Saints, good first half. Scored right at the start of the second half to kind of frank that first half performance. It was Cienza cross, and what a header from Ross Stewart. One wonders what might become of Saints if he can somehow keep himself fit and on the pitch for the next 14 games or so. But Charlton's first shot in the second half was a Sonny Carey shot, low and hard from 20 yards. And those go in quite often, don't they? As he's shown this season. 1-1 draw. Great response from Charlton to what was a disappointing home defeat to Pompey in midweek. I think Kaminsky in particular deserves a shout out because he had a pretty tough game against Terry Devlin's knuckleballs in midweek, but made some big saves here. Lloyd Jones also had a big game, as did the 22-year-old Kenyan centre-back Collins Sichenje, who we're all very excited to see more of. And I know that Charlton's social media team have been enjoying the increased impressions and engagement that they've been getting since signing Collins Sichenje. Nathan Jones was pleased as well. A couple of decent quotes from his post-match about being back at Southampton. If I tell you how I really feel when I walk through the door at this place, I might get myself in trouble. But yeah, nice to come back. Nice to see the grass. He also said, I've got no affiliation here, really. I was here for a brief time. I think I spent more time in Starbucks than I have at this football club. And to finish off, when a Saints journalist, Alfie House, asked him if he was pleased with the tactical learnings from November, he said, "We've always been good tactically. We demonstrated that here. I can't remember the last time you beat Man City. I can't remember the last time you got to a Carabao Cup semi-final." Good stuff all round. Thank you for listening to this Championship recap. We've got another one for League One and League Two, wherever you found it. Cheers and go well.